3, 2. For this video, I'm going to be showing you my healers. I'm going to try to break down why I like each particular healer, the ones I use the most, where they're usable the most, things that might be useful for you. So let's get into it. So I'm starting with Vrask because he's currently my personal favorite. The guy's really amazing, and let me kind of walk you through why, and then I'll talk about some pros and cons for him. Now, this is the whole reason he's good. Attacks one enemy, fills the champion turn meter by 20% if this attack is a critical, and you build him with 100% crit rate, so you get 20% every auto attack. Now, this move is basically just worse than his basic. He does slightly more damage, but again, it doesn't actually do anything. It's just an attack. So you actually don't want this move leveled. Now, you can level this one if you can get it, but you don't want the cooldown because when you're using him on auto, you actually don't want him to be using this move. You only want him to use the basic. If you're playing him manually, you would just basic attack all the time. Now here comes the entire reason he's good. Heals all allies by 10% of his max HP when he inflicts a critical hit. So obviously you build him with tons and tons of HP and maximum critical, and then every time he goes, he's going to heal his entire team by 10% of his HP. Now if we look at the total stats I have on this guy here, it's 59,954 HP. That's without a ring or a banner, so that number's going to get higher. And then I have masteries on him to give him increased healing, etc. So he's healing about 6,500 every single time he attacks. Now, you may wonder, okay, well, that's good, but he doesn't do anything. He doesn't have CC, he doesn't remove, debuffs. That is true, but there's a reason why he's good. It's because if you pair him with somebody like Skull Crusher or Valkyrie or somebody that puts counterattack on the team, what happens is every time the clan boss, dungeon boss, anybody attacks, he's going to retaliate, get that crit, and heal for 6,500 if you have my HP or even higher across the board. And so effectively what that means is before anyone takes a turn directly after you E the giant AoE, Vrask goes and heals the team back up to full before their turn even starts. So he's very good for sustained healing. Now, gear for him's a little odd. You need to get maximum HP, so you're looking for HP sets with HP percentage and crit rate. You have to have the 100% crit rate. Speed's important, but not as important as crit rate or HP because of the counterattack mechanic I've mentioned. You can rely on counterattacking to get a lot of your healing done. Now, if you look at the gloves, I did opt for things like crit rate gloves with some speed and attack there. I would much prefer those to have HP percentage. And then HP percentage for the chest with speed. And then for the boots here, I went with speed primary, but I went with crit rate and HP percentage. And then I just got as much crit rate as I could across the board. Here's 14% here with some HP, and then I got another helmet that is HP with crit rate, and then you can see I'm at 100% crit rate. The crit damage is low because I don't really care about his damage. The only thing I'm trying to get is that health and crit rate and speed stat up. Now, where he really shines is in places like dungeons where you put him with Skull Crusher and your main DPS type of person, especially Minotaur. And the reason for this being, this is my Minotaur team. I have 4 people that, get maxed on masteries, go in and can solo the Minotaur as the 4. And then whenever I'm working on somebody, now it's Apothecary, I slot them in as the 5th one, and they get all the scrolls and makes the Minotaur grind much quicker. Now, I'll show you a battle here so you can get an idea of exactly how Vrask works within the dungeon. Now I'm going to run it on auto so you can see how he's going to play out by himself. So Skull Crusher goes, puts the counterattack. You saw the healing he did there. And as soon as somebody goes and attacks him, he's going to retaliate, and that's going to allow him to get the heals on anybody that may have got bursted. And you can see there's 6,594 health on Skull Crusher is what I saw, and there's the counterattack heals again. So it makes it very easy to survive when there's a lot of mobs because they constantly AoE, and he can sustain through the mobs. And then obviously once you get to the boss, it's going to help you there as well. Okay, so now we're at the Minotaur. This is where Vrask is really kind of starts backpacking the team. He goes and he's constantly healing. You can see that Skull Crusher is low. Now we have this shield because my Skull Crusher has this shield set. But once that buff runs off, everyone's going to start taking a lot of damage from the AoE Hex and from the ads if they're not down yet. And without Vrask, my team would very quickly die. So there's a good example. He counterattacks from that, heals up everybody. You get the idea by now, okay? But he's just really effective. And also, this same strategy works really good in the clan boss. Vrask is in my clan boss team. Now, my full clan boss team isn't maxed yet. It's not all done and all that jazz, but Vrask is a very staple part of that team. And yeah, you can see here that it's really not difficult with Minotaur once you have the sustain and, the combo with damage and sustain and tankiness and all that. And a large part of that was Vrask. Once I got him to 60 with the HP gear, a lot of these dungeons became significantly easier because when I take damage like that, Vrask automatically counters. There's one last example for you. Heals everybody right back up. So I checked this guy out. If you haven't looked at him yet, or if you have him and maybe you're sleeping on him, I would highly recommend him. He's not so good early, but when you max him out, he really becomes a beast. And here's a little bit of numbers just so you can see right next to my hair here. I'll dip out of the way. Bang, 731,000 health healed that round. Okay, moving right along to my next kind of pet project here. It's going to be Doom Priest. Now, I was sleeping on Doom Priest. I thought she was good, not great, but I think she's actually fantastic, and there's a few reasons for it, okay? So let me break it down. So it's a Force user. If you look here, her basic attack is okay. It does, a little bit of damage and increases critical rate on one random ally for 2 turns. This can be okay, for your damage doers. It's not amazing, but it's nice to have some type of buff on basic. Not too bad. Now, her second move is pretty good. It is a 3-turn cooldown when maxed, and it's a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. This is very good because in the healer role, to also additionally have an attack up is somewhat rare. And it's also very nice because getting an attack up in a role that fills a different role kind of allows you to double dip and remove somebody. Like maybe I would have Seeker in here, but I don't really need Seeker anymore now because I don't need the increased attack buff up. So she kind of double dips. But the most important thing about her here is her passive, much like Vrask. And check this out. Heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP. And here's the important part. And removes 1 random debuff from the start of them in this champion's turn. Now, the wording's a little confusing, but that's 1 random debuff per ally from the start of this champion's turn. So if everyone has 1 debuff, your entire team is removed from the debuffs. Now, it also can remove things like stun, sleep, freeze, basically any type of debuff. Well, obviously this is good in PvP, but more importantly, it's going to be good in some of the dungeons. And before I go into the dungeons and all that, let me kind of just break down what I do for artifacts. Now, the most important thing is for her turns to go as quickly as possible. And the reason for that is it's the start of her turn triggers these. It's not the start of every one of the allies, meaning you need her to go very, very quick. So she's constantly cleansing the debuffs passively as well as healing everybody passively. All of the healing, debuff removal, everything she does is passive, and all of her active abilities help increase offense. So she's kind of an offensive support that also has a lot of defensive tools. I actually think she's a very, very good character. Now, speaking of artifacts, I should talk to you about artifacts. You just want her to go quick, 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 quick. And for that reason, I have her with just the fastest I can get her. Now, I do have significantly faster gear I could put on her, but this is what I have currently available without ripping pieces off of another person. She does have somewhat slow base stats. It's 93 speed. That's not the quickest. So speed sets are going to be, like 10 bonus instead of like 12 or something. But it is pretty decent. And I got her up to 176. Crit rate and crit damage doesn't really matter because she's not really a damage dealer. She's more about bolstering the offensive capabilities of your allies while, cleansing. So let's show you some footage of her in the dungeons. So I have an opportunity here with a key to show you how she handles herself in hard mode of the boss here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop out Vrask, and instead I'm going to be using my Doom Priest, and we'll see how she matches up and kind of see some of the highlights of what she has available within her kit to assist us at the clan boss. Okay, so we're going into the battle, and I like to run my battles on auto because I like to see how the computer is going to use the characters, mostly for my own knowledge, for defensive and arena, as well as when I auto through dungeons and whatnot. And so we can see the priority for her is she does like to use the attack up before anything, which is good because the only other option is basic. And paired with that basic attack that gives critical rate up, paired with Skull Crusher, whenever she counterattacks, she's now giving crit rate up to our allies. So we're actually going to have crit rate up fairly decently across the board. Plus, she's quick enough that she should be able to get in enough of those crit rate bonuses to really help out. Okay, so we're going into the battle, and I like to run my battles on auto because I like to see how the computer is going to use the characters, mostly for my own knowledge, for defensive and arena, as well as when I auto through, dungeons and whatnot. And so we can see the priority for her is she does like to use the attack up before anything, which is good because the only other option is basic. And paired with that basic attack that gives critical rate up, paired with Skull Crusher, whenever she counterattacks, she's now giving crit rate up to our allies. So we're actually going to have crit rate up fairly decently across the board. Plus, she's quick enough that she should be able to get in enough of those crit rate bonuses to really help out. Three, two. Now you'll notice that anytime he's applying the debuffs, they're very quickly getting removed. Currently, Juliana is stunned. However, that would make her skip a turn. But because we have Doom Priest, that stun is removed, and now her next turn, she can apply 2 5% poisons for 3 turns. That's a pretty big deal. Okay, now you see where they attacked. Our guys are counterattacking once again, so she just increased the critical rate of our Lysandra. Now, this is where Vrask on the counterattacks would be better at healing, but if you get Doom Priest really, really quick, and you can see she just cleansed all the poisons there. If you can get her really quick, I think it's arguable that she might be one of the top tier healers. I think, everyone has said she's good. I'm not going to say people are like 100% sleeping on her because other people have said she's great. But what I'm thinking here is she's even better than that. I'm thinking she has the potential to be like a legendary healer status. If you can get her to go very, very, very quickly, I'm talking plus 150 speed or something, and get her to constantly go, you're going to be dealing with no debuffs every turn. If you can get her to go twice for every time your hard hitters go, that means you're going to have no debuffs. You're going to have none of the attack, attack down. You're not going to have to deal with stun, none of that. So I think that's very useful in the clan boss. Okay, now we're starting to get into where large amounts of damage are coming in. You notice it's taking about half their health every time. Now, this is where Doom Priest might start to struggle. While she does have healing, the healing is reliant upon her taking turns. She's a passive healer. She doesn't have any panic heal button. And because of that, if one person is really taking a lot of damage, like the Skull Crusher, for example, because he uses that protection, she may not be the best choice if you're trying to do spot healing. Like if you need somebody who needs to immediately heal, she might not be the person for that. But she's great against dealing with debuffs and consistent AoE healing. As you see here, she's having trouble struggling to keep up with the constant damage that's coming in once we start getting into the higher rounds of turns here. But at the end, they'll show you the damage. You can see how far we got, and you can kind of decide for yourself. Now, there you go. The AoE finally took her out. She's only level 50, keep in mind. I don't have her ascended at all. She will get better, but again, the heals are based upon your allies' max HP, not her max HP. So for that reason, she doesn't heal as much as Vrask, because you can't just stack tons of HP on her and hope she's great. Unfortunately, you do need speed, so that would probably be the con. Okay, so there you have it. Healing done, 257,000. Now, that's probably low for the clan boss, if we're being honest, but I think a lot of her value comes from cleansing the debuffs. Now, the clan boss isn't necessarily where 100% of her value comes in. In my opinion, it actually comes in the dungeon, and I'll show you that next. Okay, so I've brought us into the Dragon's Den, and the reason we're doing the Dragon is because this is one of the places where she is, in fact, the most useful, and when new gear comes out, the Dragon is going to be farmed a little bit more heavier than he is now, because we're all going to want that legendary gear. And she is going to be great in the Dragon's Den for a few reasons. The first reason is going to be that when we go up here and you can see his bellowing breath, when he has that purple health bar and you have to burn through him, she can do the attack up buff, which will allow everyone to deal temporarily more damage and burn through him, okay? You'll see the attack up there. Now, the other reason she's good is if you don't have enough damage, let's say the new tier 16, 17 comes out and we're eating the dragon breath, we can't do enough damage during the meantime, and she gets that dragon's breath on everybody, what you can do is when he gets the huge stun and everything, and it becomes her turn, she cleanses all of that off. She removes it. Look at all these debuffs we have here. So because the dragon applies so many debuffs, having her as an option is going to be very useful in the upcoming updates when we start actually having to focus on these dungeons and beating higher tiers for the real good gear. So if you have Doom Priest, it might be a good time to start working on her for these dungeons. Okay, so now we're going to get into a couple other healers that I just kind of want to briefly mention and go through, and I'm not going to do a massive breakdown because they're already fairly well known. Apothecary is going to be one of these. Now, everyone knows why Apothecary is good, but I'll break it down for you in case you don't. He attacks 3 times on his basic at random, meaning in a clan boss with the Giant Slayer mastery, he does massive damage. The other portion is he has a 2-turn cooldown that can critically hit, meaning if you have a 100% crit chance on him, when you heal, you will do a double heal, but it doesn't scale with crit damage, okay? You just get the base. Now, the boon of speed is amazing because it does 30% increased speed for 2 turns, and it fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. So it does both, and it's only on a 3-turn cooldown, meaning that if you use it, and then you go again from filling your turn meter before the other guy goes, it's only two more turns and it's going to be back up. So it's almost always 100% uptime. Same with the heal. You just basically trade back and forth between like an auto attack, a heal, and then boon of speed, and you just repeat the order. So it's very, very, very useful for this guy to have tons of speed. So if you are going to use him, and he's only a rare, I should mention, he's only a rare. So it's very easy to get him and get him quickly just by pulling normal shards. Now, as far as actually being quick, I have 122 speed on him. I could get him faster. I will probably try to get him faster. As fast as you can get him means every time he's going, he'll be gaining more and more turn meter for everybody and healing people, and his damage isn't bad either. So he's just all around very solid. And the reason you see this guy listed everywhere and like, oh my God, he's a god, is because he's a rare. He's easily accessible. Anybody can pull him. He's just a very good character overall. And when it comes to healers that do healing based upon damage, Lugan's also in that list. Now, he's a legendary, so I'm not really going to go over him very much because people probably just don't have him. But he is very similar to Vrask. With his Ascended, he attacks one enemy, heals all allies except this champion by 25% of the damage inflicted. Damage inflicted is proportional to the max HP. So he can heal for a lot over time. He also got like protection, defense up. He has some decent skills, but he's just kind of an honorable mention because he's kind of like Vrask, and in my opinion, I actually like Vrask better because I like the way Vrask's kit works better. I like the turn meter gain on auto, and if you're doing a whole kit around trying to heal people based upon your auto attacks, I would rather just have turn meter gain on auto than the bodyguard and defense up and all of that jazz. So in conclusion, Vrask is, in my opinion, the best healer for clan boss. Doom Priest, once fully maxed, is either currently the best healer for dungeons or will be the best healer for dungeons when the new update comes out, and cleansing those debuffs are more important. And then other ones like Apothecary are just extremely useful in clan boss, anywhere on the map. Wherever you put him, he's going to be good and he's easily accessible. And then Lugan, if you can get him, he's okay as well. There's some other healers, but I can only really go over the ones that I have because they're the ones I'm educated on. And so I hope some of this info in here has been useful to you. If it has been useful to you, consider liking the video or subscribing to see more of my content. I do daily content, and please let me know in the comments what you would like me to cover next. I did this video because somebody asked me to cover healers, so I did it for you. I hope you enjoyed the video. That one guy who asked, I forget your name, but there you go, man. All right, cheers, guys. Everyone have a good day.